We should all be breathing consciously. Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Adar Aleph is sponsored by Lori and Stephen Eagle, Lili Nishmas, Lori's mother, Tzivia Bracha Bas Elia, Zchon Livracha, anonymously in honor of the coming of Mashiach. We love those. By Linda and Serge Merck in honor of their son Yaakov, Akiva completing the Nachyomi, and for the protection of their son Hillel Tzvi. Yehuda is currently in Aza, and all the Chalim that are there. The week is sponsored by Joni and Moshe Pollack, Leilui Nishmas Basheva Bas Meir. That's Moshe's grandmother. Okay. I want to do a quick recap, a quick review of the gorgeous mimer, this gorgeous, beautiful mimer that we've been learning from Rav Kluger. I have pages here for those that need. If anybody needs, here you go. And I'm just really happy about this moment. Just very thankful we have the chus to learn this. Let me find something inside. Okay. So, let's focus and let's review for a little bit, and let's see what we've been learning so far. Ma'amar Hashalom, Rav Kluger. Let's see what we've been doing. Kacha. Each person, I think everyone more or less can say, I believe in Hashem. I could say I believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it's a very real statement. When you say that, you mean it. You're very connected to that, and you really feel like that's your emet. That's mamish. That's really where you're holding, and it's your truth. But the same type of person that could say they mamish believe in Hashem can also completely not stand themselves. They can't stand themselves, but they say they believe in God. There's a little bit. There's not a little bit. There's a lot of machloket over there. Could that really be? People like this become very naturally apologetic. They can't take any compliments. They hide. They can even hide behind holiness, like we learned that the Rav was saying. You could hide behind learning. You hide behind so many different things, and you keep Hashem as a thing that you believe in, and yourself as this jalab or this nebuch. And you really think you could keep on going on like that. And what you definitely don't have is any sense of shalom bayis, shalom bayit, real shalom bayis, right? And we have to understand that says a lot about the need to redefine what emunah really means. We also learn that the way to discover a place in us that can truly acknowledge all of this and bring it to a beautiful shlemut where you actually, like he was saying, can look in the mirror and just be like, I believe in you, Hashem. This is beautiful, what you're looking at, which seems so worthwhile trying to figure out, because if you have that, you have everything in the world. Not in a gaiva kind of way, but in the most shlemustika kind of way. Shlemus. So we started learning last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? I think last week, the difference. How do you approach this? How do I come to a place where be'emet I look at the mirror, I look at my flesh, I look at my actual body, and I'm like, wow, this is marabu ma'asecha Hashem. It's so easy for us to do this about other people, but about ourselves, it's always so difficult. And the closer we're getting to the coming of Mashiach, there has to be a shlemus between my understanding of what Hashem is, like we said last week, to stop when I think about Hashem facing towards something, pointing towards something, and also not necessarily saying this is Hashem, but there is Hashem in me. And I'm just summarizing these big concepts. The way we were able to approach this is by differentiating between atzmi, me, versus el erki, my value, my worth. What is this? What is this shtickle elokus? What is this thing, a yid walking around? What is my worth? And we were talking about the difference between the world of psychology and the world of ruchni, how we relate to self, to atzmi. That's what we were speaking about last time. And Rav Kluger was telling us that the person that's able to connect themselves to their value, which really means the value of your holy neshama, you can continuously receive all the strength, all the chizuk, all the encouragement, all the consolation that you'll ever need from within to keep on going strong, as opposed to always searching, I got to run to that guru, I got to run to that healer, I got to run to that person. But you could actually build up the notion of like, I'm connected to this reservoir that exists inside of me, and from here, I can continue to march to the beat of my own drum and look at the world, and like we said last time, live a life where I wake up in the morning and I'm not scared of the world, but rather I look at the world and I'm like, this whole thing was created for me. That's a beautiful description like he gave us last time. To wake up in the morning and not be scared of the world. Not feel like, yalla, again, put the boxing gloves on. Let's see how strong I can be today. But rather, Ma'abu Ma'asech Hashem, what a beautiful world it is. Obviously saying these things in times like this is even more difficult. But that remains the emet la'amito. In the core of truth, the most beautiful way to live a life is to wake up, and whatever you see, whatever you come in contact with is, wow, Ribono Shel Olam, this whole world is for me. The more I recognize my worth, my erech, my value of who I am, the more that's the kind of life I end up living. Now, it's so easy for us to say, oh, would I do anything for my child to live in that kind of a world, right? That's easy. I pray my children wake up in the morning, they go to school, they go and hang out with friends, and all their interactions are not ones where they feel they have to keep on going into self-defense mode and into like literally survival mode, but that my child could wake up in the morning and feel like whatever they come in contact with is another opportunity for them to thrive. What parent wouldn't want that for their child? The problem is, you could want that for your child, mipo ad k'tzeh ha'olam. But if you don't have that for you, you can't really give that over to your children.
Take a walk in the forest. I took a walk on the Rakafot, and I don't know what to call it in English. And everything is blooming. It's just like you see Hashem really created for us. Like,
right.
He created our eyes so we could see the greatness. How could, I just, like when you said that, that's the only thing that popped into my head.
The question is, though, how do you do the same exact thing when it's pouring outside and nothing's blooming and nothing outside is giving you that? So you're still going to an external.
No, external, but it brings it internal, because of course it is.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about going to externals. It's waking up in the morning, and from here, it doesn't matter at all what's going on in the world.
Right.
Because then in hot, whatever. I grew up in Los Angeles. It was always just 78 degrees with a breeze, more or less, So that's but a lot of smog though. That I will say that a lot of smog in Los Angeles. We're not speaking about how could you not notice what's out there, because a lot of people know that a lot of people know that what you said is true. It is beautiful. And then they start thinking something's really messed up with me because that doesn't turn me on. That's not changing my life. It's not enlightening me.
But what I'm saying is not that. And for me, I do the inside, but I also the external, because I'm not, like you said, you don't need external validation. But just when you say about Ma'asu Ma'asecha, okay, you created the world for me.
Right.
Also, it's not only.
Nachon. But over here in this ma'amar, what I'm sticking to, of course I agree with you, but I want to, it's very important for me to stick with the way that he's building this up and not get confused. Because quite often, I will tell you the truth, for me, the greatest struggles in life have been when I do look at my brachas and they don't do that for me, and then I start to think that I'm mamish messed up. I see everyone else, I do see a beautiful world, I do see my brachas, I do see the light. I do see amazing things that you could call success, and yet I'm still wondering, then why am I so broken inside? How could it be? People that are broken because their life circumstances are so heavy and intense, that's one category. People that still live with such brokenness inside, even though they have all the anything that you could think a person could wish for is something that, even though you may not want to admit it, that's something that most people in the shoresh struggle with. In the real shoresh, in the root of it, struggle with. So here, what Rav Kluger is saying, when you are introduced and invest in this world called Erech Atzmi, like the real value of what is going on in here, what am I made out of, and discovering what it means to be a soul that came from where it came from, into a body that came from where it came from, and find the harmony within that and the shlemus of that, then a person's able to live a completely different way of experiencing any hardship or whatever's going on in this world. It doesn't mean everything suddenly becomes peachy either. But what it does mean is that the ability to not fall so deep into this place of darkness, the ability to really be a strong person that believes in what I believe in and follows through, that becomes available to us. But he's obviously going to develop this even more. And today I'm very excited because we're going to be seeing a teaching from Rabbi Nachman Zchus Yaganalinu inside. So the pages that you have, again, I need one handout because I have a different one over here. On the pages that I gave out, we're up to Kuf Mem Chet, the bottom paragraph. Avodat Machshava Zo. Avodat Machshava Zo. Kuf Mem Chet on the bottom. Esti, where is it by you? In the Sefer? Avodat Machshava Zo.
It's on Kuf Mem Aleph.
In the Sefer Kuf Mem Aleph, in the pages that I gave out, Kuf Mem Chet. Does anyone here, Sarah? This is extra? Is this extra?
Yeah.
Here. He's going to repeat something that we began this whole series on. Why are we spending time working on this? Azavuti, just give me a nice vort. Like, why are we cracking our heads and opening our hearts over such deep tears? Like, come on. Okay, because he reminds us that working like this, Avodat Machshava Zo, yesh ba le'achin kelim le'oro shel Mashiach. Says it again. Because this is the prep for living Mashiach consciousness. Everyone loves to say Mashiach now. Everyone loves to say we're almost there, but the real ones are basically saying, let me already taste it now. Like we learned already in last one of the shiurim, we're right before Shabbos in the timeline of the world, and we could do Tosefet Shabbos. We could add on to Shabbos before Shabbos comes in. This is now prepping ourselves for living a life with the vessels for the light of Mashiach. Avodat Machshava Zo. יש בה להכין כלים לאורו של משיח שימלא את הארץ דעה את השם, where the whole world will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem, וילמד יהודי את ערכו. I want you to just visualize this for a second. Living in a state of Mashiach means that we'll all be walking around. What will be different about us based on this? What will be different? What does that mean our consciousness will be different? Sorry? We'll feel whole. What does that mean? What does that mean to feel whole? What would life look like? What would be different about my life when I live with the consciousness of shlemus? What does that mean?
The way you view things.
What is it? Give me an example. You don't. Someone else could too. I know I'm putting you on the spot. I'm just.
I think that maybe you won't find things to be so difficult. Things will flow and feel like you're right.
So the flow will definitely be different, but what is it based on?
Only the way you see it.
It's really based on this whole filtering and process that goes on all day long, whether we realize it or not. All the time, things are flowing, the filtering, the processing, getting on. They go through so many different subcategories subconsciously of judging me, others, have to be like this, have to not be like this. The real me will be the one that always shows up. The flow of what who's showing up to the world, this thing that Hashem had in mind when He created me, when it was completely pure and shalem, that's the person that's coming up. That's the person that's showing up. That's the person that you're meeting, and that's the person that I'm meeting. And that's the most beautiful thing in the world.
That sounds awesome.
It sounds so hard and so worthwhile. It sounds incredible. Once in a while, you meet people like this. Once in a while. And it's the most, you can't really explain what it is about them. Sometimes they could be the person that's giving shir. Like some, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it could be the person that's also saying the deepest Torahs and they're living like that. And sometimes it's absolutely not that person. Sometimes it's someone that you would never ever think you would put on the top list of like, this is my ideal of what it's like to live in a Mashiach consciousness. And sometimes for those people that come up in such a way, it's very, very hard for them to live in a world where most people are not like that. Do you know what I mean? They're the loneliest ones in the world. I have to just mention that you know him, but I knew someone pretty close to this, and he suffered tremendously. Yeah, one of my best friends, one of my closest friends. You know Moshe? One of my closest friends in the world since, literally. A huge chunk of everything that is in my life, this person passed away this week at the age of 71. And his flow was really hard for many people because it was unfiltered. It was totally unfiltered. And Hashem gave my wife and I like very big kalim to never have that block the light that was still coming out. And should dedicate this learning also to him, Moshe Pesach ben Avigdor ben Yamin. He lived with me. He was in every stage of life, like from the age of 17. And I'm thinking like this, is that, he knew his value, and he couldn't figure out in this world how to develop kalim for his own value, for his own worth. And it was torture, literally. It was a torturous life, mamash. And at times, when he was on, everything was perfect, literally, when he was on. And this notion of the flow that I spoke about before, when you heard what he was saying when he was on, when his Torah was on, he was on. And when he was not, nothing was on. It was like the exact opposite. That's why this Sefer, this Maimer, doesn't speak about building the light of Mashiach. What does he keep on saying? Kelim le'oro shel Mashiach. Vessels for the light of Mashiach. What's that?
I was saying because the light is there.
The light's there. The light's there. The light is absolutely there. This is about Kelim. The light's there. It's about Kelim for it. But I'm saying when you meet people, so now let's go a different shlav. I don't want to say higher because I don't know what that means, but let's say the different shlav. I want you to think of it. Do you know anyone in your life that the light and the Kelim were there? And when you're in their presence, you know you're in the presence of someone that really is one. They're living that shleimus. They're living a Mashiach consciousness. They'd never say it about themselves, these types of people, because then they'd kill it, right? It would be horrible. But sometimes you meet people like this, and it's right on. Sometimes they're just gifted with the kli, maybe due to their upbringing, I don't know, whatever. Sometimes the people that mamash worked really, really hard to be able to have a vessel to contain their own worth, their own light. When you do, your life is changed. They have an imprint on your neshama. They do. I was, Baruch Hashem, blessed to be around many people like this. Mamash. Like, very, very out there. It also makes life that much more intense. Because you want it so badly. You want that shleimus so badly, man. You do anything for it. And then the Yetzer Hara can even come and sound like the biggest tzaddik. Learn more Torah, then you'll get there. Come on. It's heavy stuff, but it's worthwhile, right? He says this is, again, Avodat Machshava Zo, Yesh Ba Le'achim Kelim Le'oro Shel Mashiach, She'imale Et Ha'aretz De'a Et Hashem, Ve'yelamed Yehudi Et Erko. These vessels teach you what your real value is. to the extent that what? עד שיזקוף קומתו של כל יחיד מישראל, until each individual's own personal kochot, their own strength, which each of us have, skifa, will get up, will arise. We will be strong people. Not strong, militant nationalism. I'm not talking about that kind of strong. Soul strong. Soul and body oneness strong. Which, well, forget it. We won't, there'll be no threat. All the enemies in the world will literally, like a movie, they'll just like see a yid, an army of yidden that are so much one with their own value, with their own self-worth, and then just melt. Melt. Like the Torah says in Parshas Bechukosai, when we're on and we're walking with the oneness of Hashem, Venaflu lifnechem oivechem lecharev, which means your enemies will fall on their own swords. That means they'll commit suicide. They'll kill themselves. Our enemies will do. We won't even have to get our hands schmutzig. We won't have to get our hands dirty with this kind of, with war, which could be the holiest thing in the world, but still, it's heavy stuff.
Can you define what you mean by vessel? I know what a vessel is, but what
He is. This whole ma'amar is defining it.
Like when you say vessel, it's like...
This whole ma'amar is gonna. I could do it on my own, but this whole ma'amar is literally training us to understand what that vessel means. The vessel means avodat machshava, that I have to seriously contemplate and introspect over and over again with what any tactics I need, which with the Piasetzner may say it's visualization. Rabbi Nachman may say it's hisbodedus. The Alter Rebbe will say it's hisbonenus. And we're going to say something that includes all of that, right? What is that? Making a clear distinction between the way the world defines self-confidence, self-esteem, and the way our tzaddikim explain to us what self-confidence and self-esteem, which is everlasting and holy, really means. Because like we said last week, if self-confidence from the world of psychology leads me to say, you know what, world, the hell with you, and please use a curse, the therapist that encourage us to use like the F word, B'Shem Hashem, come on, go for it, you're strong. It's good for the moment. Those things don't last. They feel great when you're sitting in the shrink's chair. They do. They feel amazing. The second you leave, it's over. This is something else. Self-worth, self-value is a completely different world. That's the kli. Discovering my self-worth, my self-value between my neshama and my body. That is the kli for the light of Mashiach. Yeah.
Most of the people that I've met that have the type of kelim that you're describing, it almost feels like a lot of them were like born with that strength,
right.
And it feels like everyone else is working to find the balance,
right.
Of
Yeah, it seems like that. It's very tricky. But I want to tell you a Torah I heard from Reb Shlomo in the name of, I think, Reb Chaim Sanzer. Do you know in the time of Avram Avinu who was born the most stingiest person in the world?
The most generous.
Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu's midah is chesed because he became chesed. Not because he was born like that. If our Yiddishkeit is following and emulating a person like that was born with it, we may as well pack our bags. Right. We're out of here, right? There's not a lot left for us to do, right? It's dafka that Avram Avinu was born like that is what made him be the embodiment of that midah. But it's true, when we look at people like that, so we imagine the mother was probably a classical concert pianist, and the child, for the first 4 years of its life, was just sitting at home listening to, like, if you know the Danzig, the Danzig family that live at the end of Pitul Maktoret, the mother that plays, she's a piano teacher, Rachel. Whenever I walk past that area of the street and she's teaching or playing, I always feel like I'm walking into like a Viennese waltz or something, like a movie where, like that it's true. It feels like that, and that nachon. Yeah. It was lo nachon. It's true that it feels like that, but it's not the emet. It's not true. So the emet ze lo kacha. Those people that really embody it, they're the ones that did all that work and work and work, and they weren't posting it live on all the time to show the world that they were doing the work. It was Beino Levin Kono. The work can't be done in public. This kind of stuff, this crying over it, can't be done in public. This is all, we get to see the aftermath of such work. Yeah.
I'm really wondering whether the struggle to elevate our level and to appreciate our work, and being this person who has become the vessel, synthesized body and soul. Like, is there a line of demarcation? Is there a definite arrival? Is it a continuing struggle? Like, it's not clear to me.
No. Yes. It's so clear to me.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Not at all. No, good question. It's how do you know you're there?
Yeah.
You're not
Simple
there.
language.
If you think you're there, you're not there.
I was once walking around Bat Ayin. I was on this silent, I think I told you this a few years ago. I was doing this silent retreat with, the silent meditation retreat with, no, it was by him, but no, it was with Hillel Lester. And we took a walk. Everyone had to take a silent walk throughout Bat Ayin right after it was called a sit, right? A sitting. I think it was either a 45-minute or an hour and a half sit of silence. And I never did anything like that before. And I went out to take a walk, and I heard a Rebbe with a few students sitting in the woods in Bat Ayin saying, "Ech ben adam yodea shu higia lebitul?" It's exactly the same question. How does a person know you reach bitul? He said, "זה הסוד של ביטול, כי ברגע שאתה מרגיש את הביטול, אתה כבר לא מבוטל." Right? So it's yeah, exactly. It crosses over to the other place. But our minds are trained to think always in in it's a dat type of setting, tree of knowledge, of definitions of reached, didn't reach, good, bad, bitul, not bitul. And here, the kelim of the Or of Melech HaMashiach fills our minds with dat Hashem, with the day of the Eitz HaChaim, the tree of life, that operates differently. Our way of operating, our way of knowing things is differently. It's not information knowing. The Ishbitzer calls this Binat Halev, the wisdom of the heart. Wisdom of the heart, it's something else. It's that, it's not just regesh, it's I know this to be true. I could never tell you why, how, or whatever it is, but I know it's so deep in my heart. People don't say, I know something so deep in my mind. No one says, I don't think anyone says that. People say, I know this deep down in my heart. It's a das that's deep down in our hearts. And it continuously evolves as well, all the time. Okay, I'm going to read again from the beginning of this paragraph. Avodat machshava zo yesh ba le'achin kelim le'oro shel Mashiach, שימלא את הארץ דעת השם וילמד יהודי את ערכו, עד שיזקוף קומתו של כל יחיד מישראל. ירומם חשיבותו בעיניו. Your own chashivut, your own worth, but your own importance will be elevated in your own eyes. Not, but I want to make something very clear, not that you'll suddenly think more of yourself. You'll actually think less about yourself, which will bring you to a place of valuing the true self much, much more. Because usually, the world of psychology says, you'll really start to see how big you are, how good you are, how massive you are. Yeromem chashivuto be'enav, the real chashivut of who you are will go up, who you really are. Ve'yasel mechubar el atzmo besimcha u'beratzon, it'll connect you to your true self, and it'll be so besimcha u'beratzon. Everyone knows there's no chiddush, but in the world of addiction, the escape from me is what everyone is from self is what you long for, which leads you to an addiction to something that pulls you away from whatever warped version of yourself you identified with. Here he's saying the tikkun here is actually trying to see and find any link to connect myself back to who I really am, besimcha uveratzon. Can you imagine spending your day? Like, so what do you do in the world? Like, we gave an example last week of Toby saying, I'm a cardiac circumciser. Can you imagine saying, like, that the avodah is like, every day I'm searching and grabbing onto any link and any chain and any connection that connects me back to my true self, and I do it with joy. Wow, what a world, what an experience. What an experience. Now you say the same words and you walk into a Gemara Shir and you say, do you feel that this is connecting you? Do you see the link between doing what I just said right now, that it happens through the sugya? Now it's very hard to see it, but the goal is to see that in Talmud Torah as well. That I believe that every word of Torah that I learn is essentially doing the same exact thing. What? Linking me to my true worth and true value. That's what emunah in Talmud Torah is. Do you understand? Now what happens? Why do so many kids check out? Easy. Ma kesher to what I'm learning, to who I am, to my life, to my world, to my experience. The real Rebbes, that's all they're busy doing. I told you this story a few times. Rav Kook, Purim night in Yerushalayim. Remember this story? It's my favorite story. My favorite Rav Kook story. Second favorite, though. The first one is the Sichon Melech Heshbon. This one is my second favorite Rav Kook story. Rav Kook, Purim night. How did Rav Kook spend his Purim nights? Listen to this. This is unbelievable. Rav Kook, a lot of the Yekirei Ugvirei Yerushalayim, the greats of Yerushalayim, the Rabbanim, and some of the greatest of most noble men of Yerushalayim would come and sit around Rav Kook, Leil Purim, after Megillah reading. And then they would do a Purim spiel. No, I'm kidding. They didn't do a Purim spiel back then. But what they did was, Rav Kook had they said there was a tzluchit shel yain. There was like a bowl of wine that they passed around with little spoons, and each person said a l'chaim with Rav Kook and would take like a little l'chaim, some wine. And Rav Kook would tell each gadol, each Rav, each tzaddik, they're saying, I have a Purim night. This is what we're doing tonight. I want you to quote me any medrash, Gemara, halacha, shas, any Zohar, anything, Ramcha, any sefer that of all of our Masorah, anything, for the most, whatever you want, and I will prove to you based on what you said, what your quote, that it's a mitzvahs aseh midoraisa to have Avas Yisrael. That was Purim night by Rav Kook. You see, the real ones, talk about a person that was aligned with his body and soul. Rav Kook can do this, right? But you know what it probably took for Rav Kook to be Rav Kook? What could we imagine? Could we imagine till his last breath in this world what Rav Kook was working on himself? We could imagine, because he writes it. He writes about how tortured his soul is. He writes about this extensively. So that I could see that it all is connected, and through all the Torah that I'm learning is the point of Talmud Torah. It's not just to know what the halacha says. It obviously is coming from a much deeper place of knowledge. That's what the real great tzaddikim and the Rebbes are all about. The real teachers of today. B'ezrat Hashem, we should find them and connect ourselves more and more to them. So again, v'yaseu mechubar al atzmo b'simcha u'beratzon sheyakir be'erko v'yashlim kol chalakav. When you recognize your own self-value, you have shleimus with all parts of you. Afilu im gufo, he comes back to this again, that you even have shleimus with your body. Everyone I asked you before, imagine like walking around with that das of Hashem in the time of Mashiach, what it will be like. You have to understand, you will be so b'shalom with every feature of yourself, of your physical self, which is like, it's just Pashut Gan Eden. Imagine if the kids of today, I have a girl in high school and one going into high school soon, like, imagine if that world was like each kid. I was talking about this with Tiferet, my oldest, the other day, and I pray she learns, but not this year. she said to me, there's a girl in her school that she has so much kinat sofrim, holy envy towards. I said, why? She said, because she'd see Rabba. If it's mincha time and mincha didn't, and she didn't daven yet, she'll stand up in the middle of the bus and daven mincha and not care what anyone thinks about her. I said, was she doing it to be like a dosit, meaning, that means to to be dafka, to show how front. She's like, no, she it could be in the back of the bus. Doesn't matter where it is. For her, she's connected to what she's important to. She wakes up in the morning, she feels like she wants to wear a skirt with butterflies, a long skirt that has butterflies on it that no one else would wear, but she loves it. And she wears it. Oh, wow. What amazing a thing it would be to be like that. It's like, you know how you become like that? Hang out with those people. Just hang out with them more and more. Hang out with them more and more. Afilu im gufo, shlemut, even with your body. Sheyichyeh behashlama muchletet umoshet im kol kulo. That you live with the full shlemus dika, complete happiness with all of you. Va'afilu ad hamareach chitzoni shel mar'ehu, even with the external look of what you look like. Shemelachim yakumu likrato v'sarim yishtachavu lo. This pasuk in Yeshaya. That ministers, kings will stand before you and ministers will bow down to you when you really are you. When Am Yisrael, when we're really us. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev. There won't be any war, there won't be any weapons. Nothing. We'll be us and the enemies will melt. Melt. Closest we ever got to this, like we always say, was during the 6 days of the 6-day war. The 7th day was already the beginning of one of the greatest, darkest periods we've ever had in the history of the Jewish people. Because when you're facing such light, and instead of making a right or a left, you make a right or a left, meaning you go the other way, it hurts so much. But to mamish be fully, we had for those 6 days, in June of 1967, Melachim yakumu likrato v'sarim yishtachavu lo. There was this Indian of atzmi, real atzmi, the neshama, the atzmi of the neshama of Am Yisrael. And we see what happened right afterwards. So the next paragraph. Hava niftach me'at be'ezrat Hashem amar nochechi. Let's open up now a little bit with this mimer. Ketzad litmoded mul hamachshava hamachlisha et da'atenu. Now, let's call it out. How do we deal with the thought that weakens our da'at, umafchita be'enenu et erkenu hamufla, and literally lessens in our own eyes our true value? How do we deal with this? How do we call it out? How do we detect this? How do we detect this sound, this noise, this Yetzer Hara that so often sounds like the Yetzer Tov, but it's a Yetzer Hara that says, your body, your life, all that's garbage. It's just about how long, how much you could feel Hashem in the world. Throw away the body stuff. That's all garbage. Nekabel et atzat tzadikim. We have to receive the etz of the tzadikim asher limdunu ki al bar Yisrael lerachem gufo uleodedo. We have to learn from the tzadikim that taught us that every yid has to have compassion on their body. It's amazing. You can go a lot of shirs that sound deep. It's always compassion on the soul. Have compassion on the body. What does that mean to have compassion on the body? Uleodedo. How do you say leoded? To encourage it. Lehairo uletamcho. To make it shine, to make it illuminate and support it. Lekachto imo berachamim el kol asher yit'aleh. Take your body with you to all your spiritual heights. Ki im gufo kodesh v'nivchar bechiba al yedei Hashem yitbarach. Because your body is also holy. And it was chosen with love by Hashem. Like the Tanya writes in Perek Memtet, Uvanu v'charta mikol am belashon. What does that mean? You chose us from any nation and lashon, and let's say, it could mean language. Let's say for now language. What is it referring to? That you chose us from all this. Hu haguf hachomri hanidme bechomriuto legufei umot haolam. That you chose us from that which looks like every other thing in the world. Zot omeret, what's amazing about the Bechir of Am Yisrael is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose us as an Am and put aside all anti-Semitic rhetoric and everything, but our bodies, like collective bodies of Am Yisrael, Ethiopian Jews, Brazilian Jews, American Jews, Israeli Jews, we look like, if we didn't like have simanim of like maybe a yarmulke or a head covering or other things, we would look like everybody else, right? That's the godless, that Hashem, you chose us from all them, even though on the surface we all look alike. That's the sod of this world. It would have been a totally different thing if every Jew actually mamish looked completely different from anyone else in the world. It's not like that. That's because it's our job to actually do that to ourselves with our bodies. Hashem, the neshama, we can't see, and that's completely different. The bodies is something that we can see, and Hashem says, that's your avodah. You want to know how you could look completely different physically? How you could look completely distinguished. Like mamash, completely different from anyone else? That's what you're busy doing here in this world, of schlepping your body with you to the place of Kodesh. And then, when we live in that harmony that we spoke about before, you actually look like a completely different person. You actually look different when that avodah is done as well. But you have to have rachmanis on your body in order to do such a thing. Now, what does that mean to have rachmanis on your body? So this is what I was, whatever. Rabbas Machshavas Believe Ish. I thought we were going to get to this half hour ago, but it's all good. This is from Likutei Moharan, from learning insight from the words of the Nachal Noveh Mekor Chochma Rabbeinu Nachman ben Fega Schusi V'Ganalina V'Al Kol Yisrael. This is Torah Chav Beis in Likutei Moharan. Torah Chav Beis is a very long esoteric teaching called Chotam Betoch Chotam, seal within a seal. It is a lot. There are books, fat books, written just on this teaching, the 22nd teaching in Likutei Moharan. This is just, basically he took two different paragraphs here and put them together. This is about Rabbi Nachman's words, okay? And maybe actually it was written by Rabbi Nassim, I don't know, I have to look inside. But it's the teaching from Rabbi Nachman. Tzarich kol adam lerachem me'od al besar haguf, Rabbi Nachman writes. Each person has to have a lot of compassion and mercy over the flesh, over your body. Leharot lo, show the body, mikol ha'ara u'mikol hasaga, shaneshama maseget. A person has to show his own flesh and blood anytime you have a moment of enlightenment. Anytime you experience a higher level in the supernal worlds, in your soul, in that place of reg, in that place of emotion, you actually have to, Rabbi Nachman says, you have to turn, this is going to sound ridiculous, but it's okay. You have to, for an outsider, this whole shir sounds ridiculous if you think about it. This whole shul sounds ridiculous. Baruch Hashem. I love it. You have to come to your, he'll go a little bit more in detail, but literally you'll have to come to your hand and look at your hand and say, do you know that thing you were holding? This hand, what it held, do you know what you were holding? Do you know how holy it is? What you were holding, because what you were holding gave you some dat to then go and think deeper and connect deeper, but you were holding it. You have to turn to your eyes inside and say, do you know what Aigalach, Aigalach, do you know what you just saw? And then like David HaMelech says this. He says there's a midrash, it's brought down, where is it brought down? In Parshas Bechukosai. Chashafti raglai kol yom. I looked, every morning I had all these different thoughts about what I was going to do. But then I looked at my feet, and my feet every morning led me back to the Beis Medrash. And I look at my legs, I look at my feet, and I say, what a Merkava. What a chariot you are for holy things. You feet, you led me to where it is. This is like, honestly, can you all look at your feet right now for a second? I'm serious. Can you look at your own feet right now and acknowledge that these 2 feet brought you to learn Torah this morning? Now look at your feet a little bit later today again, and just like wink, be like, I remember. I know it sounds, talk about ridiculous. It's not, it's actually the most sane thing in the world to do. All the time, if we did this.
This is really entering the non-Jewish world in a very big way. Like in somatic and IFS, all these therapy modalities is all about that. Like really acknowledging
Right.
and thinking and being.
Right. Well, say it afuch though. Say it opposite what you just said. You said we're entering into the non-Jewish world.
No. I said they're getting this from this. They're
Oh,
catching
yeah.
up. No, they're only getting it now, and this is written so many
Yeah.
years ago.
There's also a thing
It's a book.
for
Yeah.
basically,
Right?
like cortisol, right? When you're
Yeah.
stressed, they say like the person next to you is contagious. You catch it from like if the boss, whoever's in charge is stressed, the people around them literally catch it. I'm saying obviously the Torah knows that, but I'm just saying like it's
Nachon.
cute to hear it sometimes.
They're
like,
picking. Yeah, they're finally catching up. That's really what it. Yeah. Nachon.
It also
Nachon,
is
yeah.
highlighting, it seems to me, that like every single nisayon is really an opportunity. And the minute like you have trouble with your feet or your legs,
Yeah.
and you can't go, and then it gets better and you can. It's like wow.
Oh yeah.
And sounds like even I thought before, but when he's describing if we could just see every single difficulty as how can I use this as a ladder?
Right. That would be the ultimate. It's just so hard to remember that while you're in the actual Nisayan.
Yeah, because emotions get knocked.
Yeah. How many people are like, we're so thankful right now? Are you so thankful right now that you don't have a crazy, crazy toothache?
No toothache.
Right now.
Yeah.
Right? Do you remember when you have when you can't reach the dentist? What's going on? And the machshavas of how thankful you would be if this wasn't. So this is, of course, this is like the same notion of it, but let's continue inside. Now Rabbi Nachman continues and he says, I want to read from the beginning. וצריך כל אדם לרחם מאוד על בשר הגוף, להראות לו מכל הערה ומכל השגה שהנשמה משגת. שהגוף גם כן ידע מזאת ההשגה. The body should know. You think that your body is part of the whole Farbrengen because you're all one. Alavai, you're all one. If you were all one, the body would know every single second of every moment of a spiritual experience. But it's not like that. You have to bring the body into the picture. Bivchinat umibesarcha lo tit'alem. That's the pasuk in Yeshaya Hanavi. That you shall not ignore your flesh. Mibesarcha, your own flesh, daika. Shelo ta'alim einecha milerachem al besarcha. You shall not have your eyes ignore the notion of having compassion on your own flesh. Hainu besar gufcha. Ki tzrichim lerachem me'od al haguf lir'ot lezakecho. A person has to have such rachmanis very much on their body to see how to refine it. In order for what purpose? כדי שיוכל להודיע לו מכל ההערות וההשגות שהנשמה משגת. You know, it becomes easier and easier the more that you have Rahmanis on your body and you're conscious of the health of your body, the neshama has an easier time of notifying the body. You don't have to look at your hands and talk to your hand, but the neshama will have an easier access to the actual flesh to be able to notify it of all that it's experiencing without us going through the whole process of talking. But the ultimate is that the moment that I experience something so divinely spiritual and beautiful, there's an immediate notification, like notifications. We live in a world notification. There's an immediate notification that goes to the body and say, hey, check this out. Look what we got now. Look what we got now. Look what we got now.
That's idea of shalom bias that you're talking about.
בטח. Exactly. נכון. כי הנשמה של כל אדם היא רואה ומשגת תמיד דברים עליונים מאוד. The soul is constantly seeing and maseget. That means like lehasig. It actually reaches and grasps new and high things all the time. אבל הגוף אינו יודע מהם. But the body is notified of it. It doesn't know of it. על כן צריך כל אדם לרחם מאוד על בשר הגוף, לראות ולזכך הגוף. Each person has to try to see how they can purify the body for the purpose of עד שתוכל הנשמה להודיע לו מכל מה שהיא רואה ומשגת תמיד כנ"ל. Till we live in an experience, my experience of being in this world is that whatever my soul is experiencing, it realizes as long as I'm in this world, if it's just the soul that's experiencing it, but ignoring the body, then I'll be that person, like I said in the beginning of Shir. Sure, I believe in God, but this me and my body, my physicality, all that shtuyot, no. And I'm not sure it's God you believe in. It's someone else's God. It's not your God. Your God is the full you in this world, body and soul. Now, there's a footnote that I want to just read for you from Reb Chaim Kramer on this teaching about the soul always seeing very exalted things. I want you to listen to this to make it a little bit clearer for us. The Arizal writes that each second sees something new created in the world. The soul, which is spiritual, sees and is aware of these new creations that are being created every second. Man is enjoined to purify his body so that it too can see these exalted things. Elsewhere, Rabbi Nachman teaches that these very exalted things pass quickly before the eye, because man isn't given enough time to grasp them and picture them in his mind. He remains unaware of them. But when a person purifies his body so that the soul can illuminate it, then that which is his soul perceives is also perceived by his body. Does that make it a little bit clearer? Yeah, a little bit? Stomet, all day long, the MS is Hamechadish Betuva B'chol Yom Tamid. Ma'aseh Bereshis, right? How many of you daven this morning? Don't raise your hand. In davening, right? In davening, we say these words. Stop for a second. So I always say, okay, even though I can't see it, you're constantly renewing creation. And Rabbi Nachman says, but why not? Why not see it? Why not just say, okay, I believe it's happening? Hashem doesn't need these, okay, I'll take your word for it kind of statements. There's always, Rabbi Nachman, I feel like he's always saying this, he's inviting us to say, but you could also actually see the words that you're saying. That it's constantly, the neshama is constantly aware of these things. And the more I get in, I live a soulful life. My Yiddishkeit is a soulful Yiddishkeit. The more that I could be aware and see more and more of what we call niflaos habare, the wonders of creation. And in that way, I become exhilarated. Like, what's our stimuli? It's always based on new. And the more, if I don't see anything new here, I'll go somewhere else where there's something new, right? And here Rabbi Nachman is saying that the soul is always constantly in experiencing that new. Not new, not nun vav, in English, new, right? N-E-U, N-E-W. That's what I'm speaking about. But it doesn't invite the body into the geschäft. It doesn't invite the body to the party. So the body is a separate entity that keeps on getting rots away or whatever. And I'll take my word for it that the soul is experiencing something. No taking words for it anymore. This is an invite for us to live a life where we are constantly exhilarated. We're in a constant flow of hischachus, of renewal, that things are new all the time. Radical amazement. That's Gewalt. That's David's or it's yours?
Nope.
It's one of the...
Somebody I knew.
Somebody from the other world. Someone from there that probably got it from us. Right. Radical amazement. Nachon. Do you know how you would actually experience radical amazement in your davening? I promise you. So those of you that are in this room, and I dare you, but the from you won't let you do this. I know it already. The from you, and there's a tmimus to it, but there's also something. Who's up for a really like, not like someone from the outside would be like, this is a dare, but I'm telling you, it's a dare. You up for a dare? Okay. Say your next tefillah in English. Or bench today, if you're going to have bread, bench in English. There's a dare that says it's mutter. You'll see. You'll see. Whoever's up for it, try it, and you'll be in wonderment. You'll be in wonderment over that which is constantly happening. Be like, whoa, that's what I was saying? Right? That's what I saw? That's what I was experiencing? And we have to, like, the Piasetzner is always big on, you have to constantly use tactics, hacks, to hack the system that makes you get used to things, right? You have to always use these tactics. You got to use these hacks. You got to master them so that you could be noticing and being aware of what's actually happening all the time. So he's saying the same thing over here. The soul doesn't need any tactics because the soul is constantly experiencing this. But what we have to do is make a achlata of like saying, soul, come to body. Come invite him into the parsha. And you'll see, like, if you set an alarm for yourself today at 3:30, if you could do that and then look at your feet and just wink, and you'll see it becomes a different alignment with self-worth. You'll see. Okay, back inside. When the body is hanging around in this level, that it's also being notified of what the soul is experiencing. Hi tova l'neshama. This is also good for the soul. Because the soul also experiences sometimes, I fall from my level of where I was spiritually. But it knows I can't fall that low because I got my body here with me. My body won't let me sink because it's already been exposed to the Kedusha. I let it know about all the great things that happened to me. And then there's Shalom Bayis because you lean on yourself. You lean on both parts of you. When the body is fresh, clean, and full of light, the soul can then ascend. The body can be like, yalla, yalla, yalla. You know this is not where you belong. Go back to where you go up high again. Soar. Soar, neshama, let's soar. And it can thank the body for actually putting it back into its right place. Do you understand how crazy that is? היינו על ידי תענוגי הגוף תוכל להיזכר ולעלות לתענוגים שלה. כי מאחר שהגוף גם כן טוב וקשה, אינו נלכד בתענוגים. The soul, when it falls from its exalted level, comes back to the body that's now been purified and refined, and it sees this body that could have become completely immersed in false tanugim, in false pleasures of this world, but it chose to discipline itself in a holy way. It's almost like a remember those games, those arcade games where you had to, you know what I mean? I don't know what it's called. Like you had to, the pinball machines, exactly. The pinball machines. It's like the body can be like, okay, the neshama is the ball, right? And it comes back down to the body and like, listen, you know what to do. And then it goes, shoots up again, right? This is what it means. This is what it means. This is so deep. Now you know this pasuk. This is the deepest pasuk. This pasuk is from Eov, which literally means that from my flesh I will behold God. That my body, not just the soul stuff, but my own body, brings me to the realization of what Hashem is. Mibsari echze eloka. Mibsari daika, dafka from my flesh. Hainu al yidei bsar aguf yechze eloka. Hainu hasagot eloku. Dafka from the flesh of my body, I will see godliness. I will have godly reachings. Aval ksheyesh laguf azut, but when the body starts to become a chutzpaniak, right? And when it starts to be chutzpadik, and הנשמה יכולה לשמח עצמה ולהתקרב אל הגוף. The soul sees the body and it's like, I can't bank on you. I can't bank on you. And I can't come close to you. I can't come close to you to tell you even about any of the things that I've been experiencing. The body, אין הנשמה יכולה לסמוך עצמה ולהתקרב אל הגוף ולהודיע לו מההשגות שלה. כי תוכל להילכד בתוקף ועזות הגוף. Because the soul can become trapped by the conquering, what's that? Stubbornness. By the stubbornness of the body. מה שהגוף עז וחזק בהתאוות. That the body say, how often do we have a high experience and then we come back to being with ourselves and the body says to us, how long is that going to last? Look who you're dealing with. Look who's so much more tangible. Look who's really running the show. Happens all the time. So therefore, Rabbi Nachman says, "V'tzarich leze azus dekdusha." This is what it means. You have to have holy chutzpah. You have to have azus. You do have to have stubbornness. What type of stubbornness? The other side of stubbornness. The neshama looking at the body and saying, "I don't buy it. I don't buy it." Like mamash having these conversations inside, saying, "I don't buy that this is the real us. It's not the real us, and you know it." You have to have tkifus. You have to be consistent with this all the time. Uchshemeshaber azus is tkifus aguf. And when you break down this stubbornness and chutzpah of the body, then the soul can once again allow itself to come close to the body because it won't get trapped there. The question is, after learning a Torah like this, it's two questions. One right now is, who is running the show? I ask myself, who's running this show? So what's the answer? Huh? Right, but that's a trick. Which you, right? So the answer, I'm going to ask a different question. Who do I want to be running this show? So obviously I know what the answer to that is, right? And now the question is, and what do I need to do in order for the soul to run the show? The Yetzer Hara comes and says, ignore everything that has to do with the body. But the Pnimius of the Yetzer Tov says, are you kidding? Take the body along for every ride. Remind the body every single second. Every second. Every moment that you remember what you're experiencing, that you're aware of what the soul is experiencing, bring it into the parsha. So on a very low level, it has to do with like looking at hands and visual and saying these things. That's how it starts. That's how it starts. But eventually, the more that becomes the norm, and I break through the stubbornness of the body, through all different types of techniques that you can think of and you can use, and reminding yourself how much at home you feel when the soul is the Baal Habayit. Eventually, the perfect kli, the vessel for the light of Mashiach is formed. And that is the full version of me, the all-encompassing me, the real atzmi, the real erech atzmi, that me, through body, mind, and soul, I could be a kli for the light of Mashiach in this world. And you know what would happen if you got a glimpse of how your children would be looking at you, seeing you do this work? They'd be standing like this all day long. In the real world, your children could not be prouder of you. There's nothing that would give anyone that you love and that loves you more pride if they got a glimpse that that's what you're basically investing your time in this world. We shouldn't wait until we're Me'ava Esrim for these things to become, noticeable by us, by other people. That's jumping. If we could jump into that now already, we have that. Maybe Mashiach now is like not just a hope; it's like just a description. It's like Mashiach now. This is coming to this domain. Mashiach now, right? Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's the tikkun of Shalom Achshav, right? Look. Shalom Achshav. Come check it out. There's Shalom Achshav right now. Shalom Achshav. We should be salcha. Okay, shukayach everyone.